Testing 1, 2.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. My name's Allie McNeil, and this year's PIPA project that I chose is Access Alabama, or Access AL, and it's a website and online database. A little bit of back history about me. I have two children. One, Jay, he is 14 years old. He has autism and epilepsy, and I have an adopted daughter with fetal alcohol syndrome. We've had the privilege of living all over the country due to my husband's job. And one of the hardest things that I always found when moving was try to re-access resources whenever we moved. Moving is hard enough. Add in moving with a special needs children and refinding resources. In my professional career of design and marketing, I've had the opportunity to develop many websites, mostly for the medical field. And as a parent of a special needs child, I found it often difficult to find local resources for our family's needs. For my project, I chose the creation, design, and implementation of a website that would organize federal, state, local, school, and nonprofit disability resources into one location that's all accessible online. Access AL was born out of necessity with the goal of making resources more easily accessible to everyone. Again, like I said, moving was hard enough. Add in reestablishing a database of resources for our family, and it frankly was too much to handle. My focus is to empower those with disabilities, their loved ones, family, and friends with resources at their fingertips. I'd like to help Alabamians live a full, accessible life. My project timeline, my project selection, some different important things were acquiring the website domain, finding hosting, and a design and layout that would work if something happens to me and it needs to be passed on. That was something that was really important to me. Developing and researching content. Alabama, compared to other states, may be small. We have a ton of resources. They're just scattered around like confetti. So focusing all of those in has been a challenge, but a challenge that I faced head on. My main goal before today was getting the initial website up and running, and then work on the development and research content from there, so that I can show others what we're doing to get that content. Some of the things that in the future, work on ADA compliance. That was another reason for choosing the platform that I did. They offer an ADA compliance coding source, which is very important. This is content that's going to constantly be changed and updated, and so due to that, me doing all the ADA compliance on it myself was going to be daunting. Having a platform that we can implement the ADA compliance in, it naturally takes that burden off of me. I hope to fund ADA compliance, the continued development, and launch the website statewide by May of 2023. My goal has always been to provide Alabamians with disabilities, their families, and their caretakers access to all the resources throughout the state. And again, access for every Alabamian. Work still to do. Continue to research and development in the development of the remaining regions and their databases. Create a rapport with the state and local agencies and community resources to continue to grow the database. Acquire funding to become and remain fully ADA compliant. And along those lines, I think it is really important if a website like this not only is ADA compliant, but it gives something for other resources and other state agencies and nonprofits, something to look up to in hopes that they will become ADA compliant. Work with other cohorts and peers to add videos of all the available waiver programs to the website. That's something that I would like to do. And create a marketing plan to advertise the site. Lessons that I've learned, lots of lessons. The world of disability and technology changes right in front of you. You can wake up and it's changed. ADA compliance is crucial, and I hope for it to be a guide stone to other website designers and programmers in Alabama and across the U.S. And while Alabama has many resources, you can go on Google and there's many resources. There is not one location where you can that's easily accessible that meets the needs of all Alabamians. It's my hope that this will allow interagency, cross-agency, and nonprofit organizations to collaborate easier. Hold on one second. Yeah. Here's an example of the website. Hold on. So we have resources, and as you can see, I've grouped them into regions. And this is an example. This is not a complete list by any means, but this is an example of Region 2 and how it will work. So you can see Easter Seals of West Alabama, a short synopsis, few keywords that are searchable that say what they do: workforce, transportation, youth and nurse partnerships, all things that you can search for. And then a live link, so you can live link directly to that resource. Submissions, I thought this was really important in adding this. This is where any state, local, regional, nonprofit resource can come and put in a submission to be added to the website. And then, of course, they can contact me. Again, growing those resources, as in growing the database of those resources and constantly updating the resources, is going to be my next hurdle along with funding. So does anybody have any questions? Linda? Thank you.
I have a question. What does your husband do, and how long are you going to be in Alabama?
We're going to be in Alabama forever. My husband is a developmental textile chemist. Yeah. And he's blushing.
Oh, Allie, it's just a suggestion. I would contact Daryl because the council is already working on something similar to that, as well as the Department of Mental Health. Because in the purple folders already, they have resources by county, so that could be your first step in getting all your resources. And then I would also suggest that you talk to the STEP clinic in Birmingham as well. And that would get you kind of resource fat, for better lack of the word.
Okay, good. Because at the same time, too, on the region, even though it's regional, I also in each region want to have those important state resources.
That would be a great way to get that information pretty quickly.
Okay.
I had a quick question for you. Have you considered creating a nonprofit to support your website long term?
I have, but I would need to speak with you.
I would be happy to help you in that endeavor.
Okay, thank you, Jenny.
I was just asking to offer my services.
I was curious, have you thought about contacting the local governments throughout Alabama that have developed disability councils? Because that's a wealth of resources.
I have talked to, like I was telling Linda, I've talked to the Agency on Aging and got some of their advice on this. I got some of their advice on this with my son's waiver manager, and she had some very enlightening things to say. And at the same time, I think it's going to be really important. I know some of us had similar projects, but at the same time, we still need to continue to, I think, now work on some of those projects together, because the Agency on Aging in Region 2 that I spoke with, you know, they still are having issues with people who are in rural areas and Janice, and who don't have internet access. So this is great for everybody that has internet access, but there are people that don't. And I also wanted to say, I will be adding there is a phone version to this, but more functionality of a phone version. So maybe they don't have like traditional internet access, but maybe they have a cell phone where they can access it that way as well.
Could you possibly put a digital copy in libraries?
Yeah, I think that can totally work, probably. The sky's the limit with it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank y'all.
Who's next? Who is not? That's right. You pull them up and tell them. I'll count the list.
Yeah, you just push this button right here.
Okay.
This one right here. That one.
Okay. Okay. Who went to the fair in Hueytown? Wants to know. Right. My name is Melissa Hall, and I did a disability resource fair in a rural part of Jefferson County. Sorry. And this is the flyer that went out for that. We also had an online registration so we could create a database for people, and on there it asked what their disabilities were, what age group they're in, so we could share it with the different agencies that showed up to the resource fair. And to give you a little bit of background information, I have 3 kids, and my middle son was born with several disabilities. And through our journey, we felt alone as a family. We did not know where to start to get resources, who to call, or anything. And so we didn't start finding out about resources until he was about somewhere between 14, 15 years old, and he has autism as well. And so we missed out on a lot of resources that could have helped us through our journey. So at that point, I went on a quote unquote one woman mission to find out what was available in the community that could help us. And then as I started doing that, I found out that other families were in the same situation. So I made a goal to make sure that wherever I go, that I'm sharing resources to anybody at any time, even if you're standing at the polo outlet and I turn around and see your son is nonverbal, I start sharing. So this was another way to get information out about the different resources. So that is my why, is to make awareness, to share with as many people as possible, especially in the rural areas. As you know, in the big cities, resources are more easily accessible. When you live out in the rural area, you have transportation issues to get to resource fairs. So I decided to take the resources to the people that I thought needed it. And as Dustin said before, you should surround yourself with people that can help you. And this is my team of people that I called on. These two are, I mentored when I was at Alabama. Zelda Miles also owns a graphic design company. So she did all my flyers and setting up my registration for me. Victoria, she used to work for Birmingham News. So she helped me compile a list of churches and school systems. We targeted like 7 different cities for this fair. Miss Jackson works for Rehab Services. So I kind of used her to make sure I was getting different connections to various resources to show up. And Benita Davis, she's BREN on the radio station. So she's connected with media, and so her job was to get it all out in the different media platforms. And this was my original plan that I submitted, and I referred back to it to make sure that I was doing the things that I said that I was going to do. Now, these are the steps that I used to get this done, and as you see, it's lengthy. So I'm not going to go through them all, but just know that it was not an easy task because you had to make sure that you had all your hands moving in the same direction to get things done, down to the day that we actually had the fair. And as you see, my day started real early that day. So my goal was to increase awareness on federal, state, and local resources to a rural part of Jefferson County, because I just focused on one area to see how successful it would be. And to be honest, I judged whether it was successful or not if we could just help one person get the resources that they need, then I considered this project worth all the work that I put into it. Things that I got still hanging out there to do. I got to send a bunch of thank you notes. I had volunteers from Hoover High School ambassadors. So I had kids running around to help set up tables and chairs and delivered water and Gatorade to the people that were working the various tables. Also, churches, I got to send one to Gary Wood for allowing us to use their facility, and to my home church that allowed me to haul 21 tables and 50 chairs out of the church. I also have to send an official letter for the kids because they get volunteer hours, which is important for their resumes. And lessons learned. This is important. I didn't know I wasn't going to have funds to do this project. And so the first thing I would say is find out what your budget is off the top. And if you have to raise money, that should be another whole project within itself. I did manage to get donations to do this, but that was a major hurdle when I tripped over, that I wanted to have. Also, Marika Coleman was part of the team originally, but she had to drop out because she's running for the state senator. Make sure that you know what events are going around in the bigger cities. Also, we had a lot of parents that came up and said, my son or daughter was playing in a championship game, and I wish that it wasn't on that date. So that's one of the things I said. And also for advertising purposes, because the radios that we were planning on advertising, I was competing with the politicians, and so you know who won. And I would like to just show y'all a video so that you could really get a flavor of what we did that day.
Ready?
And there were over 25 different agencies and nonprofits that were present that day. I put my number on the flyer, and there have been, my phone has just been flooding with people calling. I've had many days where I've cried because parents have called me to say how much it meant to them to know that now they have hope. I had one parent that called me, and her daughter is 4 months old, and she's about to have heart surgery, which I could identify to her and made her feel a little bit more comfortable because my son has had 2 open heart surgeries. And so I was able to give her additional resources on the spot. And she's actually told me that when she gets up there to the hospital and her daughter's in recovery, that she would like to call me from the room and keep me updated. So I really felt like this was a really needed thing. And parents and also agencies have sent me emails and saying how much they appreciate it, because one thing that I realized that was going on is this agency was talking to this agency, and they were talking about how they could collaborate on future projects. So that was another thing, another benefit that I didn't expect to happen. Also, one of the things I did is I invited Alabama Care to come out and interview well, not all, because we ran out of time, but a lot of the agencies recorded videos for us. We actually had them like an interview process.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elena Burt, and I'm here today
Wow.
with Alabama Care. We are here in Hueytown at the Disability Resource Roundup at Garyville
And,
Church, and we'll be
one of
here
the
from
things
10
that,
to 2, so come out and
happened
support.
is that
But so first up
the
on the
people
show, we have Ms.
started,
Deb Schneider.
Hello.
Well, we
hello.
can post
Tell me
it
a little
where
bit about
each
what your
agency
connection
tells
is to
what their agency is doing. So, you can have a piece of paper that says, your agency does what, but when you actually hear it from somebody and they explain it, then you really know what that agency's doing. So this is a video of that.
y'all have that you can provide for them.
Sure. So Alabama Caregiver Connect can be accessed at Caregiver Connect at ua.edu, and we have caregiver. For 101 as part of that website, and so that's where experts answer common questions that caregivers have. Some of the latest questions we answer is, how do I deal with
can access?
Sure. If you need our services, feel free to give us a call at 205-325-8787.
To take your information to place you on the waiver, and we'll be glad to send you out this information.
Yeah. So, like I said, we can post that, and I think 24 of the 25 ended up recording what their agencies did. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Ah,
Stay tuned.
yes, stay tuned. That's
To be announced.
that's a good way to put it. I've heard rumors, and that's all I'm going to say. It's a rumor. Stay tuned. I would, it's one of those.
Don't know it yet.
I have people that are pushing me to go to other areas. I've had suggestions of what areas should be next. But like I said, it's, like for instance, when I got a bid on the tables and chairs with the discount, it was going to be like over $500. So, I went, well, my husband and some of the trustees and deacons went and got the tables out of our church, which was a few blocks away. So, each area that we go into, we're going to have, right. And so, if someone calls me and say, we got the tables, we got the chairs, can you get the resources here? That's a whole lot easier than if I have to pay for a venue or pay for tables, chairs, and things of that nature.
And my other question is how received was, how many people, yeah.
How many people?
What's impacted?
Well, there were 30 people about that showed up. 30 people that showed up. But I'm getting calls daily of people that saying, my sister went or my grandmother went, and, when are you having it again, where, or what resources are available to me. So I'm feeling all those calls as well.
Were those 30 people more community located?
Yeah, they came from Hoover, Fairfield, Midfield, Pleasant Grove. I'm trying to think. Adamsville, which I didn't even send anything out to Adamsville, because what I did is I sent an email with a letter and attachment to all the schools, elementary, junior, middle school, and high schools, and all the surrounding cities of Hueytown. And then I started sending that same letter to churches in those 7 cities. That wasn't my original plan, but that's what I had to do to get it out, because that and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Because like I said, I was competing with the politicians to get on the radio station. And they're paying and I wasn't. Yes, some of them posted on their websites. And there were also a table that you saw that had information that our cohorts were sitting at. There were several agencies that could not come, so they literally sent their information to me, or in the case of Social Security, I went by and they loaded up my trunk with information, because they're under a restriction right now that they can't be out in the public because of COVID. So I got a lot of information sent to me so that I could tell people, or Melvin could tell people, or whoever was sitting at the table could tell what those different agencies and what resources they provided. So, you know, I felt like it was a good event, and other people have come to me and said, you know, this is great, when you're going to do it again. I even had someone that sent a letter high up on the chain that says she's got to do this again. So there are people pushing to do it.
Stay tuned. It's going to be coming. She don't know it. But I just want to give a shout out to Miss Lisa too, because we were there in support of our friend. And also we had a chance to talk to families personally. As they was coming around the table, we were able to share with them. And I remember a young lady I talked to, of course, nobody has any idea about what's going on in the state and everything too. They don't know the resources. And so once you know, I got used to asking a certain question. We used to always say, how do you know what you know? You don't until somebody asks a question. And so since I've been in this game a little bit doing this, I know how to bring that out of people. And so I asked a question, and here's a good one. What is early intervention? A lot of people don't even know. So by the time you figure out how old the child is, they missed it. They missed it. And so that's another thing come from my project. But if you don't get people early, they're lost. And so everything that you guys are doing is going to be helpful for the cause. Starting at the very beginning. And like you said too, your son was what, 14? Yeah. And so, yeah, you miss a lot. Yeah, you miss a lot. But so we're trying to go back to the very beginning. If we can catch people early, we can start them on the right path. There's everything available here in the state of Alabama, believe it or not. You just got to tap into it and get started. And so now everybody here is armed with everything, with knowledge, the programs, and there are so many organizations and resources that are available. I mean, it just blow your mind. So, and I'm gonna quit because I can keep on going. Oh, I don't have one with me.
What you need? You need one?
She got one.
I'll mail you one.
Yeah. I used to keep it in my bag, but I think I gave you one.
Yes, ma'am.
Melissa, I hope you keep doing it, and if you do, this is just a suggestion.
Yes, ma'am.
If I'm remembering correctly, I did it when I worked at Arts and Office, and we utilized it. I want to say that it's in the spring. The University of Alabama has a submission for nonprofits or projects that they let their marketing program have 24 hours. You talk to them like a few weeks before, you tell them like what you would like to market, and then for 24 hours you'll have like 20 students. They come up with every single marketing piece that you need, and then they present it to you as their project. So
Is that attached to the School of Business? Because they have a summer program. Is it through them?
No, it's at the Reese Pfeiffer building, is
Okay.
the communications building where is every time where I've gone to it. But the work that they produce is fantastic, so it would take a big, huge burden off of you to keep doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What, of having to recreate, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Recreate, or they could give you stuff that you could use in every county. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You could use state
Yes.
or regional.
Any other questions? Oh. Well, yeah, because I had PIPA parents, but one of the great things, because one of the agencies sent me a message that says, while she was there talking and advocating, that two other parents walked up and they just took over the advocacy to the person that needed the resources. So that was also happening unbeknownst, because I was running around making sure everybody was hydrated. Oh, and that's another lesson learned too. it was supposed to be overcast skies, and it ended up being 80 degrees with the sun beaming down. So if you can get an inside facility for this, that'll work out better.
You willing to come up and present, sir?
Yeah, I'm never ready. I promise you mine will be for you.
Here's your clicker. This will just go to the next slide. Right there, and it's ready for however you want to paste your slides.
Okay, you know I'm a little different anyway. My title was, Whose Job Is This? And so I put that because this is something that's going to be near and dear to everyone. Now, so my project was, I set out to create a pamphlet or a checklist to be briefed at the neonatal NICU at the hospital for parents. So what I'm saying is, when your child was born and you didn't know of the condition or the situation, who told you anything?
Nobody.
So, and so my thing is, whose job is it? Is it the doctor? Is it the nurse? Social services? And so, because this happened to me, it happened to everybody else and everything too. And so I wanted to know, why didn't they have a checklist? Why didn't they have a pamphlet to brief you? Because once they booted you out of the NICU and they sent you home, you lost. You lost. And then since you didn't have the knowledge before, because you didn't see this coming, who do you go to? So my thing was, we need to have something like a checklist or at least a briefing once before you leave the hospital that says, hey, your child may have this, you want to go here, you want to do this. And because, my wife's sitting here. And so when it happened to us, we didn't know anything. You just overwhelmed and you don't know what questions to ask or what to do. And so before you know it, you're going home with this child and you got tons of questions and nowhere to go. So I wanted to keep it simple. And like I said too, I got here, this is something I said was personal to me. And this happened to all the families. And, who's going to explain to you what went wrong? If any, you don't know. And so everybody's got a story to tell, and I'm still blaming somebody, not myself. But so one of the things I was looking at was my plans. My plans were to get this drafted. So I do have a draft pamphlet. I think I got a copy, but I also got one here too. And I made it like a checklist. And the one thing that I did was I did some research. I went online, I couldn't find anything. I even visited several hospitals in the Montgomery area to ask them, what do they have in this situation? I got the deer in the headlight look. I even talked to a social worker. Even talked to, they wouldn't let me upstairs in the NICU or hospital. So I couldn't get nothing out of them. And so when I asked the question, they like, what are you talking about? I said, okay, what do you do before people get discharged from the hospital? You send these families home and they're lost. So my project timeline, I wanted to create a pamphlet by May 2000. Well, I got the pamphlet done. My next thing is I'm going to go ahead and look at people who want to have vetted interest in this procedure, and then also present this down the road to hospital administration, because I can't go over to the hospital and say, hey, this is what you need to do. You got to go ahead and talk to somebody and see if we can get this done, because it might be an extra step for somebody to do in their job. And so I still got to get my buddy, Mr. James. He's going to help me with some of this. He don't know it yet. And so, like I said, I'm going to be quick. I have my my little brochure, and I'm gonna send it around to you guys because I want your input. I want you to tell me, what should we ask for? What should we do to help brief families? So once they have their child and whatnot, and before they kick you out of the hospital, hey, we need to tell them this, we need to tell them that, and I just put a few. And here's an example. And I had my wife help me with this too. So, for example, how do we know that we need to get the best pediatrician they got out there? Because most pediatricians are not disabled or pediatricians that help people with disabilities. You have a pediatrician, they don't have a clue about what's going on. And so my thing on that right there, you talk to us and get referrals. The other one is early intervention. How do you know about early intervention? You contact somebody. And so I went on down the list. Alabama Department of Rehab, file for Social Security, file for Medicaid. Those are the things that need to be briefed to the parents before they leave. Because a lot of people don't know that you could have applied for Medicaid right off the bat, whether you qualify or not. And it's all about income base. Well, I applied so many times that when my child got eligible, they just gave it to him. Because, both me and you got to know, because they're saying, well, you don't qualify. Okay, I'll keep on applying. Yeah, so I must apply about 7 times, but then I had to wait till she was of age because of our income. And so same thing with Medicaid. There's so many things that's out there, but if you don't apply, if you don't know to apply, that's the biggest thing. If you don't know to apply, and then you just miss out. And so, and then on my little thing here, I even had on the bottom here where it says, like a checklist with a signature. Like I said, I'm gonna pass this around. A signature and date of the parent and then the person that actually briefed them. Because, if you don't do something for the family, then, what are they gonna do? They're gonna be lost. And so this right here was just part of my project to get this pamphlet done. Now I wanna go ahead and get it vetted. And then I'm gonna go ahead and reach out to hospital administration as far as implementation, and then move on from there. So, like I said, this is one that was dear to my heart because all of us had to go through this, whether you knew it or not. And so, yeah, like I say, I'm gonna be quick. I've got questions. So, am I getting questions?
I have a comment,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really needed as a parent that my son spent 2.5 months at Children's Hospital and was transferred, and he spent 2.5 months at Children's, so he was 5 months old when he first came home, weighing less than 8 pounds. I did not know that we were eligible for, or that early intervention even existed until he had a severe asthma attack, which the clinic was closing. And I told him, by the time I get there, the clinic will be closed at UAB. And he says, just call my cell phone when you get here and I'll meet you at the clinic. Well, little did I know, Jane Dewar, son was having a severe asthma attack. And if my son hadn't had that asthma attack, I would have never, ever known about early intervention. So, and he was 11 months old when I first found out about early intervention.
And that's what I'm saying too. We should have that little briefing prior to you leaving, because, like I say,
because you don't know what you don't know.
well, once you leave, you're lost. Yes, ma'am.
What did you encounter when you tried to meet with social workers in the hospital? In my personal opinion, sometimes it's an impedance.
Well,
Or that they're not, that that they're not helpful, and that there are certain patients and certain children in the NICU who already should have been put on a waiver, who already should have been helped the family to apply for Medicaid to be necessary to get it. They needed to be in the hospital.
When I was in the unit, I heard other parents talk about all these programs. And when I went to the social worker, she just told me, oh, you're not eligible because of your income.
Yeah.
And so we missed out because I was not educated.
Right, and that's just it.
And because those kids were getting, I found out he was supposed to get PT and OT, and he qualified the moment he was born when they found out. But they told us we didn't qualify for anything. But if you didn't have a resource, financial resources, I saw people get those.
Yeah.
Thank you, Melvin. We're gonna speed through these and not really talk and do questions afterwards, and we're gonna get the last ones done, and then we're gonna move on to the next. I know it's great conversation, but we're just gonna scoot on. You can go to the front.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, we'll need two mics, one for me, one for Carl. No, I can share. Oh, okay.
You want to go? Hello? Hello? Going forward, going backward.
Okay.
When you want the video to play, let me know and I'll pull up the video.
Okay. Perfect.
7?
You want to stand right here?
Sure. Oh, sorry.
You got it?
Yep. Okay.
Wait a minute for everybody to sit down.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with the Colby Act. A lot of you have already seen and heard the Colby Act, but I happen to be able to get my graduate son here with me today, so I'm going to give him a shot at the mic and tell you a little bit more, and then we'll field some questions. Introduce yourself.
My name is Colby Spanner. The Colby Act is very important to me. I can make decisions for myself, ask for comfort when I need it.
That's right. So I don't know if you've noticed, I've kind of touched on it. There's been a big theme here today, and that theme kind of circles around you don't know what you don't know, and with a little bit of support, then you know, and then you can make some really good decisions with that knowledge, right? So that kind of lays the foundation for the Colby Act. What we noticed in Colby's life, and he even said this to us on Mother's Day, is that we were off to a good start, and we're in a good place now, but there was a whole lot of hard work and disappointment in between. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because every single one of you have walked that walk. So what we were seeing is that that hard work, the disappointment, all of those battles in between, that was because Colby wasn't necessarily being listened to. We had a lot of people telling us what to do or not telling us what to do. But nobody in all of those processes, all of those experts, nobody was really looking at Colby and asking Colby what Colby wanted to do. And we didn't really have that aha moment until we were in high school with Colby. I'm saying we because I feel like I walked through high school with him. But when Colby, at every opportunity, every time, when Colby was asked, Colby, what do you think? Colby, what do you want? He had an answer. We just needed people to listen to Colby. And so that began our journey with supported decision making, because we were noticing when and if Colby's voice is heard, things go well for Colby and for everybody else. So we want to bring supported decision making to Alabama. It's already in about 14 states. The legislation has passed. When Colby was in high school and graduated, we were learning about supported decision making. I made Colby a promise and said, I promise this is one thing Alabama will not be last on the list for. We're not going to be last. We might not be in the middle. We might not be, we're obviously not first, but we are not going to be last. So no matter how long this takes, we're going to get supported decision making in Alabama. It's a good thing.
Pass the Colby Act, give voices to choices.
Very good. That would be the video. So we're going to let you watch a quick video from Alabama Care. After receiving the diagnosis. Colby likes to ask questions. He's determined to find the answers.
I like to ask why a lot.
The one question I can't answer for him yet is why he was born with cerebral palsy. I knew he was going to be challenged in life after receiving the diagnosis, but I was not prepared for the constant battles we faced to get the services and supports he would need. To see how much he has already overcome speaks directly to his determination and perseverance to seek solutions.
I like to ring bid.
After an end-of-the-year band concert in high school, the seniors were recognized for their accomplishments and announced their upcoming plans to attend college. Each senior proudly announced the name of the college they had chosen. So, of course, on the way home, Colby asked,
Where am I going to college?
And that was a question I was not prepared to answer. So, with a knot in my chest, I said, I'm not sure yet, but we can look at some online, okay? We learned about Think College programs, and all of a sudden, a whole new world of possibilities had opened up for Colby that we had no idea even existed.
I can do this.
Colby started talking about college in his IEP team meetings, and they listened, and it wasn't easy at first because the more we learned about these programs, we realized there were certain criteria to meet for acceptance. And one of those was that Colby needed to remain his own guardian. Some programs required it, and some preferred it. That's when we learned about a new phrase called the School to Guardianship Pipeline. Many schools unintentionally steer students like Colby to seek out guardianship when it's not necessary.
I know I can choose for myself. I don't need a guardian.
The advice was well-intentioned, but if we had taken it and become Colby's legal guardians, he would not be where he is today. Now he's in college and about to graduate.
In college, I have mentors and friends who help me with different things.
Colby lives an hour away from home on his own now, and we quickly realized he deserves this level of independence, and that if it's going to continue, we will have to step back and let go more every day. That is really hard for me. So I did what most moms do when we get scared or unsure and we just want to protect our kids. I went into detective mode. I went online, I did some research. I reached out to other moms who've been there, done that with this age and stage. But that's when I learned about something called the supportive decision-making model. And in my research, the Alabama Council for Developmental Disabilities introduced us to something called Charting the Life Course Tools. I shared this information with Colby and he liked it too. So we put these two ideas together and created Colby's Dream Team.
I love my dream team.
We have some amazing people contributing to Colby's Dream Team. They are all experts at what they do and mutual friends who know Colby pretty well. The value of building relationships outside of a network of paid supports has been vital for Colby's success. With more natural supports comes more independence. The outcomes we've seen from his relationships with these team members create more opportunity for inclusion at an exponential rate.
We get by with a little help from our friends, White.
One very important relationship we've built through the years is with Alabama's Disability and Advocacy Program, or ADAP. Our friends at ADAP know the long history of the fight for rights for people with disabilities. ADAP works closely with our courts on issues related to guardianship in Alabama. Everything Colby is doing right now is making a huge difference for guardianship reform. I'm incredibly proud of Colby, and I know he's paving the way for many more to come. I know a big part of the answer to his why is to keep asking others,
why not? Let's make the Colby Act happen. Help us bring Dream Team to Alabama.
I want to ask a quick question. How many of you use supported decision making right now? Any hands? 2. It's a trick question. We're all using it. We're just not calling it that. So how many of you have a hairdresser? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when you walk into your hairdresser, you don't just sit down and say nothing. You start asking questions, telling them what your ideas and opinions are, and then you both together, with that hairdresser support, come to a decision on how you are going to get your hair done. How many of you have a financial advisor? How many of you have somebody that gives you counseling, like a pastoral counselor or a therapist? How many of you have a way to go online and look at customer reviews before you make a purchase, right? Those are all examples of supported decision making. We're all using it. We've been doing it for our whole lives. We're probably going to keep doing it. Doesn't it make sense for somebody with a disability to use it too? Right? So when communication is there, and a lot of it is, whether we recognize it as such or not, especially with technology today, there should also be supported decision making. All right? So the Colby Act timeline. We created the content for the bill, and when I say we, it wasn't just me. We had a lot of help from the Developmental Disability Council, from James Tucker with ADAP, a lot of help with the content of the Colby Act, and a lot of it you can go online at supporteddecisionmaking.org and look at what other states have done. All right, so the bill filed March 2022, again with a lot of help. Big team effort here through contacts and connections, and Mr. Isbell is the sponsor going forward, and that came from PIPA. So thank you, PIPA, right? And then our next steps are to educate, advocate with Alabama stakeholders. Those are the legislators, the school systems, families, and the judicial system. And so the way we're planning to do that is speaking at every event and engagement we can possibly get the microphone. So if you know of an event coming up through your organization or any kind of affiliation that would be interested, please send us an email. And we would love to go and speak and spread the word. Other meetings, one-on-one, and then going forward, just advocating, social media, all the different outlets. So the timeline for passing the Colby Act, I would have liked to have done it yesterday, but after hearing Dustin's speech, it may take a while, but that's okay. We're in it for the long haul, no matter how long it takes, and we hope that you are too. All right. Oh, what would I do without them? So we also have a plan for the how-tos. We want, after we pass the Colby Act, we want to host statewide workshops instructing schools and families toward creating an SDM team. This doesn't have to wait until after we pass the Colby Act. It can happen now, but what I don't want to do is get too divided with my attention and our attention going forward. I really want to focus on passing the Colby Act and give a lot of attention to that. But I think there's also going to be a place and a space for helping families understand how to create those supportive decision-making teams. Because it's not a, okay, here's my people, we're going to do this kind of a thing. It's a process. And for us, it took about 3 years to get the team started. And we're about 2.5, 3 years into practicing with the team. And so I think there's a good space for that here in Alabama. And then lastly, we want to build communities of practice with the disability advocates using this model because we know it works. So we want to put it out there as its own model. There's lots of different ways to do it, but doing it is the big part. What counts? How are you doing that? Okay, good. Okay, so here's how we need your help. Create a signed letter of support for the Colby Act from your local provider agency, your disability nonprofit, or other people with disabilities, and email that letter to us, right? So the more the merrier. The more support letters we can get to give to our legislators, the better off we all will be. Call, write, meet with your legislator, discuss the value and the importance of the Colby Act. If you don't want to go by yourself, give us a call, we'll go with you. But getting to that local grassroots level of who your legislators are is going to help in a big way. And then lastly, just talk it up. We need co-sponsors. It's a bipartisan issue. It's not a Republican or a Democrat thing. This is for anyone and everyone. It's both parties. So wherever your political beliefs are, that doesn't apply here. So go and talk to your local legislators and tell them, and the people you know, the Colby Act is coming to Alabama. We'd like it here now, right? Okay, is that it? We're good. Okay. Colby's got one more thing.
Teamworks make dream work. John Maxwell.
John Maxwell. Very good. Okay. Any questions? Oh, yes. Alex helped us do a website, thecolbyact.com, and we've got to add more content, but it's up. It's on. It's live. Is that how you say it? Yeah. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Great job, Liz.
I'm real proud of how far they came and what they've done and what the process went through this year with PIPA. And I hope that you all will be her support team going forward next year before the next legislative session and get the word out there so we can get it passed next year. I think we could do it. We've got a great voice. Y'all are awesome people. What do y'all say?
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
A little bit louder.
It's right here.
Which is forward, which is back?
The one over here is forward. Try it now, and you can see it change. And then try and go back. Okay, there you go.
Hello, everyone. Hey, No. Okay.
Testing 1, 2.
Okay. My name is Jenny Lux, and
I'm Eric Brown.
we're doing basically what amounts to the hot phrase of a needs assessment. We are reevaluating the knowledge of the disabled voters' rights. We're doing a survey and an education program following the survey. If I do not fall.
Our project is creating a survey and educational program. It will help people by creating an employment the survey. It will help people with disability or PWD and poll workers.
Oh, sugar.
Let's start.
Oh, hey, sugar's better than other words.
I'm going to turn on the projector again. We'll start off with slide 1 again. We'll just do it all over. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Yeah. So let's see if we can get this back to slide 1.
It's much better than the other words. Let's go. You, me, and me. So I'll take that one and that one. Okay. Beginning and third. Okay. It figures that stuff on the board.
That's okay. We'll get it powered back up. You guys are doing a great job.
Just keep talking? Okay. Well, you know what? I did have an idea. And I'm wondering, since we're on video anyway, I am wondering if we couldn't do a showcase type fair that could be funded by the DD Council of the projects and their results. We can build grassroots efforts. We can build more popularity in our ideas. We can team up better. It will be kind of like a reunion and a public update. We could do it in any one city. I'm for Huntsville because we didn't get to do it this year.
And I'm going to create like a survey. We're helping for a different county.
So we'll just do display settings.
I've got ideas all over this page.
Okay, I'm going to start you guys on square one, and you guys are good to go from there.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Greeting, everybody. My name is Eric Brown.
And I'm Jenny Lux.
And this is reevaluating the knowledge of the disabled voters' rights. A survey and educational program.
Okay.
Our project is creating a survey and educational program.
It's going to help people with disabilities and poll workers. Nonprofits agencies such as the Disability Advocacy Program and People First of Alabama can then enhance their educational programs. And if anyone else knows of any other agency that wants to join, please let me know or us know.
It will help people with disability and poll workers.
No.
We're here to help educate people statewide about the PWD right to vote.
And the goal is helping people understand voting rights that are very important to a society. The goal is basically to do the survey, find out what people do know. Find out what people do know, and then create educational programs surrounding this survey. Our project We want more people to have the ability to vote freely without judgment. We wish to teach people to speak up for their voting rights and how to make responsible, informed choices. We want to partner with People First of Alabama and ADAP, especially with their voting rights fellow, Nikki Watkins, I'll get it right in a minute, to train more future leaders through programs such as the Young Emerging Leaders with People First, and to be voters and self-advocates. We want more people to join People First of Alabama, which is an organization that should be statewide, but we are still building. COVID kind of knocked us for a loop-de-loo, but we're back and we're chugging along. We want to educate self-advocates also about the partners in policymaking. That is so important, because how else can we continue to have more classes of advocates?
And also there's me. I'm a young emerging leaders, or Yale, and I graduate and self-advocate. And Jenny Lux, the president of People First of Alabama and self-advocate. And Miss Susan Ellis, a director of People First of Alabama and advocate. Miss Vonda Reeves, a PIPA graduate and a project mentor. And Miss Nicole Watkins, a senior voting rights advocate and outreach coordinator for ADAP.
I need 3 hands. Okay, our project timeline is as follows. We have May through June. We're doing actual research, not only on ADAP's website, but also on the AAPD, which is American Association of People with Disabilities. They also have voting rights. I think it's Rev Up the Vote. And we are looking at what materials are already out there in order to formulate our questions. In July, we're going to launch the survey on SurveyMonkey. It's going to be a 2-prong effort. One survey will be for the poll workers. The other survey is for family members of people with disabilities and also people with disabilities. They're kind of grouped together because they're all interconnected. You want to go with August?
And for August, time will be spent in analyzing both quantitative data and numbers and qualitative data for written comment to see what educational material should be developed. Data will be shared with partner organizations throughout the state.
Go ahead.
During September through November 2022, educational materials will be written, filmed, and distributed as necessary with the help of partner organizations.
I'm hopeful that I can get some of the news channels to feature us, and hopefully maybe Alabama Care. I'll put a plug in there, but I want to reach out to radio stations, TV. I want people to know about this. We do have rights. People First had the People First versus Merrill Act. I mean, not act, I'm sorry. Lawsuit, I'll get it right in a minute. And we did win, but we got overturned on the, Lord help me, curbside voting, that's what it was. And so we are still fighting. It is a battle, but it's something that deserves recognition and something that more knowledge needs to be in place with, because knowledge is power without fear. Oh. Thank you. our goals are to create the digital survey on SurveyMonkey to evaluate statewide what the poll workers and what people with disabilities or family members both know and don't know about their disability voting rights, about their voting rights, period. But also, it's going to be important, the qualitative data, the written comments. We can get stories and examples from that, and that can actually help us build a case. We're not going to ask for names per se when you do fill out the survey, but stories are still stories. I don't think we're going to ask for names because I don't want to put anyone on the spot necessarily, but if things are happening, we need to know.
Analyze data and develop new target educational material. Creating a plain language flyers of the different laws to be voted on for digital and paper disputation. We want to seek new members to join and form chapters in People First of Alabama.
Absolutely, because not only is knowledge power, but more voices together, we will roar. And be unstoppable. All right. Hope I don't lose my balance again.
Back aside, please.
Oh. Yeah, I need a third hand. Oh, no, that's just yes. Okay, go.
You know what our action steps are? Writing letters to the senators, circuit judge, governors, and more. It will help for the nonprofit organization while we need to self-advocate for our rights. We want to get feedback on survey by August 2022. Teaching people to write a letter to elected officials about the issues they care about and creating a survey on paper or electronic.
We know that some people prefer paper, so I'm going to have to figure out funding for that, but yeah, it's doable. Yep. I'm not going to say it anymore, but yeah. Oh, thank you. Go ahead and read your quote, Eric.
Here to quote you all should listen. Self-advocating are a key of life. Choices we made assist our independent living to follow the road path to a positive future.
And I think that's a very powerful quote. I got a little surprise for you. You know how I revealed in Opelika that I know sign language? About to do my sign language quote. Eric, can you hold this, my mic, so I can speak and sign? Thank you. Knowledge is power without the fear. The more education that is spread about self-advocacy, the more choices for people with disabilities, they become available. It truly becomes nothing about us without us. Next slide. Uh-oh. Did it go? There we go. Okay. I guess we were going to show the artwork that he did on the questions page. I don't know why it didn't. There it goes. Eric did some artwork, which I think was really good. Because we do have a voice, and it's time to shine.
Okay, any questions?
Thank you. Thank you. I was kind of winging it and praying, so a lot of praying. No, he He was more composed than me, I think. But anyway, are there any questions? I mean,
I met Eric a long time ago at the ALSP conference. So I've seen his artwork. And don't you have a website or something? I know you got a whole plethora of art. This young man is talented. And so if you can tell us where we can see this stuff, because I know you got it somewhere.
Thank you. My website called Airpalooza. You should go to my website. Go to www.airpalooza.com. It will show you all my artwork and my creativity.
I can. I'll do that.
Seeing this, my dad and I have been working together, creating like t-shirt tote bags for helping people for the organization. Because it will help everybody to show more of my artwork. And furthermore, I'm creating like an artwork for helping for sickle cells for my brother Jacob, because he was born with sickle cells. Because I want him to achieve and learn how to take courage for you people to step up and speaking up for yourself.
Thank you.
Just watch the cord there. I'm going to give this to you, Eric. Okay. Betty, are you ready?
Well, I mean, I haven't done it. I was looking to see if it had what I wanted. Okay, great. Okay, guys, mine will be much shorter. I know we're ready to finish up here. My name is Betty Landry. I'm from Mobile. I have a 46, soon to be 47-year-old son who has intellectual disabilities and autism. And I could give you a story like all of the people here have given, because 46 years is a long time. And everything from what Melvin said about when you're in the hospital and all of a sudden you've got something you're not sure what it is, the doctors a lot of times are in denial, and it takes a long time to find out what and if, and you fight for 46 years, and I'm sure I'll be fighting till the day I die. What I just, maybe I'm too. Anyway, my project is an Alabama waiver directory for regions 1 through 5, a Facebook page. I started with the idea of, well, I'm going to jump all around here because my thoughts have, listening to all this, changed a little bit. But initially, what I wanted to do was to well, no, let me jump back. Okay, my son has a self-directed ID waiver. He's had it since he was 24. We got it. It was offered to us. I had signed up. Let me jump back too. I'm a special ed teacher, taught for 34 years, and what you see and go through in the school system is a lot different than what I've learned in this program. I sure wished I had known this, 46, 47 years ago. But you take it where you're at and you go with it. Going back to when, I guess when I started with the program, my idea was with the self-directed services, most of you in here, I think, have a waiver, at least a lot of you a self-directed waiver. When he was 24, he had the ID waiver, but it wasn't self-directed. Self-directed didn't exist at that time. And at that time, when I was offered the waiver, he was 24, and I was told, well, we weren't really thinking about a waiver. It just kind of, I got a phone call, and they said, you either take it or you lose it. And so I'm like, well, I don't really know that I'm ready to take this. And I was told, well, if you don't take it, you won't ever get it back. And said, you're getting older. Well, I wasn't that old then, but you can see I'm getting older. And they said, if you don't take it, you're going to need it and you're going to regret it. So we went ahead and put him in a group home. He was there for 10 years. I won't go into all the problems that we had. The first few years were great. Then they changed, Medicaid changed the way things were done, and we had problems, big problems. I tried 3 different group homes before I made the decision to bring him home. Best thing I ever did, but the reason I brought him home was I was about to give the waiver up. Regardless of everything, I said, I'm done with this. Nobody needs to deal with the problems in the group homes and that kind of thing. So when I brought him home, I brought him home because she told, it was a God wink, happened to be in the office the day when, and I'm going to name her name, Amy Warren happened to be in the Mobile office. And she said to me, and I told her, I said, she's like, why would you give this up? And I said, because you don't have anything that I need. You can't offer him transportation. He had a job. I still had a job too. We were traveling 40 miles a day, getting him back and forth for a job that paid less money than the gas I spent to get him halfway there. But anyway, she said, yes, we have a program called Self-Directed. And I said, well, tell me about it. And she did. And it was perfect. I could keep him at home. I could have services that he did not get in the group home. It was wonderful. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, with the self-directed, I could have caregivers come into my home, and I could choose them, because that was one thing I said. They were wanting a provider to send them in, and I'm like, no, nobody's coming into my home unless it's somebody I want to be there. So I let, and I've got so many God winks here, and I have to give God credit for that, because that is the truth. I've had 2 caregivers that I've had for 8 years. He's been on the self-directed part of the waiver for 8 years, and I've had those same 2, and they work with me. He loves them. They love him. He's included in their homes. They take him out to where they live. They take him with, one of them especially they've taken him to Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas dinner on days when I was out of town taking care of my sick dad. They've even taken him on, of course you can't pay for that with your self-directed services, but they have taken him on their own on vacations with them. Anyway, getting back to the point, when we did get the self-directed services, those are a lot of good things about it, but the downside was I did not know anybody in Mobile. When you're in the group home, you kind of learn some of the people, but when we brought him home, he was very isolated. And as far as me being able to know other people in the community that had that waiver, which may or may not be important, but then with the self-directed waiver, it went really good for 8 years. I was happy with it. A lot of paperwork involved, but not as much as it's become since Medicaid's made these changes as with this act. When the pandemic hit, the services changed drastically, and problems started occurring. There was, with Authenticare, and you may or may not know what Authenticare is, but it's an old system that Medicare said we had to use in order to pay our employees. And with that, that was a big change because it didn't always work. Some employees didn't get paid, blah, blah, blah. And then a year ago, they knew that it was going away. It did not go away. Nothing was said about it. And then January of this year, all of a sudden, it's going away. And it's going away in a couple of weeks. So they're trying to train us in 2 weeks how to use a system. And I'll tell you what happened is that system does not exist to this day. They're creating it right now. And come June 11th, 10th or 11th, if it's not up and running like it needs to be, then our employees are not going to get paid. And what do you think is going to happen? These people live on very low salaries. They live on them from week to week. And if they don't get paid, either it comes out of our pockets or we lose caregivers. A lot of people have already lost caregiver. I've been very lucky. I've actually done timesheets in addition to mine, even though we weren't supposed to, but that's how they got paid. Okay, I've got way off subject of what my thing was, but that's kind of how I got to this. When back in October, I think it was, there was a Zoom meeting. And at the Zoom meeting, I found out about a Facebook page called Self-Directed Services. Now notice mine, self-directed, and this is not actually the exact name of it, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but mine's actually Alabama Waiver or Other Waivers Directory Regions 1 through 5. I started out wanting just to connect with Region 3. That's my region, Mobile. I just said, well, we're having all these problems. Now, the thing about the other Facebook page is that it covers all 5 regions. And it's been a godsend with all these problems we've had with Medicaid and pay and all of that, because what one person gets information-wise, somebody else doesn't. And so it's like all over the state. If you don't know this, then look on this Facebook page, because somebody somewhere in the state's got an answer. And you can kind of verify it because you can hear, 2 or 3 people, 5 people. There's almost 300 people on that Facebook page. So I'm thinking to myself, man, I just wish I knew some people in Region 3 that I could connect with to make sure that, we can answer each other's questions, that we can meet together, that we can maybe even form a group and get together and whatever. So anyway, that's where my idea came from. And on that other Facebook page, I actually asked, can I put mine as like one of the topics under his where, because it's a great page, it really is. If we just had a directory there where we could go and see who are the people in our regions. So I was going to just read, and I think the guy that did the page is sick, is what I've been told. Anyway, I was not able to connect with him, so I said, well, time's running out. I've got my project to do. This is what's on my mind. This is what I want to do. So I jumped in. And let me tell you, my tech skills are about on the floor. And Linda will tell you that because I've sent so many things to her that, and I had pretty good tech skills when I was teaching, but it's been 9 years. I've been retired 9 years. And so my tech skills are, and of course the tech skills you need for school, they have their programs. You learn their programs, no problem. It never occurred to me when I joined PIPA that would be my big downfall, would be the technology, but it is. But anyway, So I went ahead, I jumped into the Facebook deal. I can't tell you how many hours, and I do mean nights when I say nights. When I've been looking at YouTube videos, I've been reading, I've been trying, and my tech skills are so bad, I was having trouble figuring out what they're talking about. But anyway, I got you're laughing, but I'm telling you. Have you? Well, that makes me feel better, especially knowing where you're coming from. She's our principal, not my principal, but a principal, so I know. Okay, so I get to the Facebook page. I did it back in January, and it sat there for 2 or 3 months because I'm like, I've done as much as I can do. I don't know. I don't really know what else to do to it. Okay, I got to, when I got to the part where you have to add the different, well, actually I was just going to do Region 3. And I said, well, heck, it's just as easy to do this for all 5 regions as Region 3. So I said, I'm going to create a deal for all 5 regions where anybody on that page, the 300 people, and there's probably more, can go and find people in their region so that they can talk to them. So when I got everything done except the regions part. Well, it's a directory. What's the most important part? The regions part, the directory part. So I did everything I could think of. I played, I erased, I fixed. I'm just stuck. And it's not that hard. So I go to my really good friend who has a son well, she has a daughter-in-law who is a media specialist and a principal at another school. And she says, Betty, I would love to help you, but she said, you got a map book. I wasn't trained on map book. She said, I know. She said, I know nothing how to help you with that. She said, but my son Jacob, who's out at South Alabama, said, I'll ask him to help you. And so he did. Guess how long it took him to get that regions thing in? 5 minutes. Or less. And laughing all the way. And I said, that's okay, Jacob. I said, you laugh if you want to. I said, because I'm going to take you to lunch. He didn't laugh because, food is the thing with kids. Okay, well, getting back to my page book or my Facebook page. So got everything up and running. But the only thing is Jacob told me he said, you got to make them, when they go on your Facebook page, they've got to do a post. It cannot be a comment, so you got to do a post. And then he showed me there's like 5 steps where they could go in and put themselves in the in the directory part. And for some reason, I don't know why I left out the word directory. That got changed just in the last day or 2. I changed it on mine, but I think Linda might have changed it for me in the meantime because I found mistakes. But I had other help even to get to there for the PowerPoint. But anyway, so I get the people starting to join. Now my goal, we had to do that aim statement. We had to do the goals and the objectives and all of that, which I'll get to real quick, I promise you, in a minute. But just sitting back there listening to all this, I'm like, you really need to hear some of this to understand where this is coming from. But anyway, when I got to the putting people in, I spent weeks, and I do mean weeks, with people trying to get into that page by all those instructions. They would put a post, and a lot of times it would go into comments. And when it would get into comments, then they would wonder, well, why can't I get in? And so then I started posting the directions. And then Messenger, I said, well, just call me, I'll help you. I spent hours explaining, showing, whatever. I'm not the only one with poor tech skills. But anyway, one day playing with it, I accidentally found I can put that in. I could skip all his skips, all of his steps except for one, and I can put them in. If they did a post, I can put them in. Now, I do have one other problem, and maybe somebody can help me with that. That was probably my fault to start with, because one of the rules to join the Facebook page, it is private. No one can see it unless you're a member, so, it follows my HIPAA rules. But to get into it, you make that post. I put it up. Thank you for moving that on. Okay. Okay, so this is how the page book looks when you go to Facebook. This is what you'll see. And it says 58 members. This is an old one. I'm up to 59. I count every one because my goal was to have 50 people as members. It's got, would you back it up to the other sheet real quick? Okay, this is really the way the Facebook page looks. This is the directory right here. And this is the directory. When you hit topics, it takes you to the 5 regions. Now, I would like for it to have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know how that happened. It wasn't always like that. It just kind of changed on itself. You know, Facebook updated itself last week too, or maybe it was the week before. But when you hit this, I put everybody inside when you give me a post. Now, in the meantime, some people said, well, how do I know which region I'm in or which county? So then I go back and under photos and here, you can find it either place, is the, and you've got the thing, can you move it? Yeah. Okay, so here is that photo and map page. You can't see it very clear up here, but it actually divides, it tells all the counties by region, and it shows all the counties and they're divided up by regions. So you can tell which region you're in by your county. When you put, this is an example of the posts. This was for my region, Region 3. So I showed you what I asked them to put in was your name, your city, your region, the type of waiver that you had, and if you wanted to put something else, yes. So these are 2, but if you scroll down, anybody that's joined that waiver, I mean that region number will be there. Okay. Oh, let me put this right here. This is what I said with my technology. When you assigned that PowerPoint last week, I thought, well, I can do that. I've done PowerPoints 10 years ago. So, and I didn't have a MacBook. So when I sit down to do it, I literally just about had a heart attack. I'm like, I played with it and I thought I could get it. No, just little things with that Mac. I was so frustrated that I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I have neighbors, really sweet neighbors next door. Anna, who is, I can't remember if she's a junior or freshman. She said, sure, Miss Betty, I'll come over and help you. She spent 2 hours with me. She said, do you want me to do it for you or do you want me to? I said, no. I said, I got it all right here. I said, all I want, Anna, is I said, my tech skills are on the floor. I said, just help me get this onto the thing. And, oh, she was so sweet. You know what she asked me to pay her with? Blueberries off my blueberry bush. So she got blueberries. And that little heart, I put that in there because I felt like she needed the recognition because she did. But anyway, that's it. This was my goal, and I think I've already covered all of that. I think I've covered pretty much everything, okay, except for maybe this. The page is up and running, and as the admin and as time goes by, I'm going to have to do, you know, some things to change it. I've already got a few ideas. A future possibility would be adding a category where Jasmine's not here today, but Jasmine and I had a conversation about caregivers. Jasmine's got a little boy named Jaden, and I think he's having surgery this week, so say some prayers for him. But in our conversation, she said, I need caregivers for him. And so anyway, she created a Facebook page for caregivers. So you, if you go to my Facebook page and look, it's got a picture of hers on there, so you can find hers too. Okay, lessons learned. I told you again, this is my big one right here, technology. Oh my goodness, technology. Now the other thing, our whole program is inclusion, and I told y'all the first day that I was here, you know, I have, as a special ed teacher, I have taught everything from self-contained classrooms. I did that 10 years, maybe 12 years. I have taught resource rooms, and I have taught in the main classroom with inclusion. I've done it where I've just gone in. I've done it where I have actually co-taught with other teachers. My big thing there, though, is, and I will tell you this, and I guess this is to you, Miss Debbie, is I cannot let the experience that I've got for 34 years go unnoticed. I think there needs to be a continuum of services. It doesn't matter whether your child is high or low, what his skills are. If you've got good special ed teachers, they're going to put them in the mainstream anyway. And I do understand you wanting them to be included, because I do too. You know, I want my child to be as included as society as he can. So let them get what they need when they need it. And I will give you one success story, and I feel like this is a God wink too. Hit me 2 days ago on Facebook. And this child is one that I had back in 3rd grade, so it's been a while, and I have not kept up with him, but I do keep up with some of the teachers that he has had. He was a high-functioning student, like Colby. He did come to my room for a short time, and I put him back in the regular class. I said, he doesn't need my room. He needs to be in the regular class. And I would go in there. He didn't even really need me in there. On Facebook 2 days ago, he graduated from South Alabama 2 days ago with a degree, not a certificate, a degree in mechanical engineering with a minor in math. So,
Any questions? And then what is the name of the Facebook group? I'll pull it up here so anybody that wants to join.
let's see. I actually made a copy of it because I have the right. Yes, and please do. And even though it's just the directory, I've added other things on it. I added Kim's page about the supported decision making. I added your page about the Jefferson County transportation. That was yours, right? Might have been. Whose ever it was, I added that. ARC of Alabama joined it. Who else joined it? And I think I put ARC over in the regional thing. But it's information. Just another resource, information.
Thank you very much for sharing. Appreciate that. And there's the Facebook group for you guys to join there. Okay, we've got 2 more here. One of them is taped. But Miss Debbie, if you would come up here. Okay, here's your hot mic. And then here is your
to advance it. Okay. Thank you. Most people know me as simply as just Doc Deb. My project is on creating an inclusive education Facebook page. And I felt the need to do this. My first project that I started on was actually creating a resource room at my particular school, because the closest one to us was 15 miles away. And the students would have to get up on the bus like 5 o'clock in the morning just to make their routes to get to, 15 miles away. And so I wanted to do that, sat down with people at my district office, and they told me basically, if you get a resource room, then everybody in the district is going to want a resource room, which is why I wished I had heard that "why not" speech prior to that. So I changed it, but I'm going to go back and revisit it, because my goal is to put a resource room at Woodland Elementary. And so we want to make sure that, they don't have to be inconvenienced within their actual neighborhood. One of the parents, we sat in on one of the IEP meetings, and they are getting ready to send one of our students to the resource room 15 miles away. The parent turned around and looked at me. She said, "Help me." What questions do I need to ask? And so when I started guiding her, the district coordinator for special education was behind the parent, and she was like, you know, that kind of stuff. And I don't want to put people out there on blast, you know, but it happens. And so that's why I'm going to team up with Miss Serena, and I'm going to team up with Mr. Melvin Watts with, you know, contacting these parents and, you know, sort of educating them. But it's leading me to do this, to educate parents, give them resources, things to ask about when they're in IEP meetings, et cetera, et cetera. It broke my heart because this little student, his whole entire family are Woodland graduates. And so when he was told basically he was going to a resource room 15 miles away, the parent had a question. She said, what about sports? He wants to play sports. And the first thing they told him, they said, if you don't make the grades, you don't go down here, you're not going to qualify anyway, because you have to have like a 70, you know, in order to compete with the sports. And so she was sort of disheartened, but we got her back focused, and we said the main thing is his academic progress. And we've got to get him the resources to help him strive and be able to work and live and thrive as an independent individual when he hits life after school. And so he's at the elementary level. But I wanted to create this page because inclusive systems, they provide better quality education for all children, and it's instrumental in changing discriminatory attitudes like I just discussed. When you have people who look at students when they come into that mainstream process in the classrooms, they tend to overlook those students a lot. And the attitude of the teacher sort of spills off on the students. And if the teacher is not tolerant and understanding and seeking to understand how to better educate children with disabilities, then you're going to have students who have negative attitudes and who won't pretty much understand what it's, you know, like to deal with a student who has disabilities. And we want to make sure that those students are, like I said here, we create that inclusive environment not only to help those students with learning disabilities, but to also support those students that do not have a learning difference by making them more aware, tolerant, and understanding of each other. So it's all about tolerance, and it's all about making sure that those students become helpers, peer helpers to the students with disabilities. Why again? Studies have shown that inclusive learning benefits all students in the classroom by providing thoughtful, personalized instruction and promoting individuality and equity. More than 60% of students with disabilities spend at least 80% of their school day in the general education classrooms, according to the U.S. National Center for Education Statistics. And if you looked at IEPs, you'll see that they say 80% of the time is to be spent inside of the general education classroom. Now, does that happen? It does not. It doesn't. We'll be here for 2 more hours if we start talking on that. For some, you know, it's in writing. I'll say that, and that's all. It's in writing, and that's all. The inclusive education resources will concentrate on providing guidance on inclusive education for persons with disabilities and or students with special diverse educational needs. The purpose and importance of inclusive education, teaching, and learning materials is to make lessons interesting, learning easy, and it will enable teachers to easily express their concepts to students who are struggling to understand and comprehend the material. Learning materials can significantly increase learners' achievement by supporting learnings. And so you have a lot of teachers who truly struggle when it comes to providing the right resources for students with disabilities, intellectual disabilities in their classroom. So this page will help them provide better teaching strategies for some of the students with disabilities. All right, establishing a successfully integrated learning environment is a complex task involving teachers, administrators, and families. For inclusion to show positive benefits, the learning environment and instructional models must be carefully established to provide strong learning opportunities for all students. Special education and general education teachers must have mutual respect and open minds towards the philosophy of inclusion, as well as a strong administrative support, me, and knowledge of how to meet the needs of students with disabilities. So I myself become educated, and PIPA has really opened up my mind, and I can really feel the pain of parents who had to deal with the education system and fighting constantly for their students to receive all the benefits that they deserve and that they actually had access to. But like I said, sometimes you have those people behind you saying, you know, for whatever reasons, which is not okay. The timeline for me to complete this will be September 30th, 2022. I'm in touch with a friend of mine who is also one of the guys on Fiverr.com. I don't know if y'all know anything about that, but they actually help you create web pages, Facebook pages, you name it, they know how to do it. So I go to the experts and people who actually can assist with that. But the actual project work and things that he'll be posting will be coming from me, because I will get those resources. I'm a member of CLASS, which is Council for Leaders of Alabama Schools, as well as Allocase, which is Alabama Council of Administrators of Special Education. And they provide us every conference we go through CLASS. They give us so many materials and things, and I'm like sitting there looking at it like, man, this would benefit our babies. And so that's what I'm going to use my main resource hub to get that information out to parents. I'm going to do roundtables. Mr. Melvin met me this morning, and he said that I think it's APEC. Yes, Alabama Parent Education Center. I'm going to be reaching out to him to get some of his people to come in and educate my parents, because I want them educated, and I want them to know what's available to them. I love being an administrator, but I also, the children, they're the reason I'm there. And without them, I don't have a job. And so when I'm faced with dealing with how to best provide the services that my babies need, I always call them my babies. When I am faced with that, it seems as though I'm always at odds with the district, and I don't want to be like that. But I'm finding out through PIPA, I'm going to have to advocate on behalf of those children. And so I'm really grateful for this, Ms. Linda, being a part of PIPA and meeting all these wonderful parents and learning about their fight, their struggle, and the things that they had to go through. And now, being a principal until I retire, I'm going to make sure that no other kid have to go through that. So that's going to be my timeline. I'll have it done by September 30th, but I'm thinking I'll have it done by June, because I'm about to get out of school now. We are nearing the finish line. We're like in single digits. May 25th is the last day of school. So I have more time to devote to this and just get the parents and the community members what they need. My goal was to provide inclusive education resources for teachers, paraprofessionals, parents, and family members, and also provide parents with IEP meeting information. When they go to those IEP meetings, they need to know the questions to ask, and a lot of them don't know what questions to ask. A lot of them don't know what services they are actually owed. And so I want to put that out there for them. It's not going to be a favorite for my district, but I think the parents as a whole will love it. So that's what's motivating me, because I have a niece. I had to take off from my job to drive to Tennessee just to sit in an IEP meeting and listen to all the garbage that was being said to my mother, who was guardian of my niece. You know, I had to sit there and listen to that, and it really angered me. And then I knew, because I understood special education law, and I understood what services they basically deserve based on the disabilities. And I started asking questions. And when I started asking questions, all hell broke loose. And the first thing was like, Dr. McCauley, let me get back to you on that. It was always, let me get back to you on that. You're supposed to know. And that was my thing to them. You're supposed to know. This is what she is struggling with, and you're telling me you don't have the services to meet her needs? And so, needless to say, I didn't even get back into Alabama. The school called my mom back and asked her to please come back the next morning to meet with the principal, and they had those services in place. So I got a little bit of advocacy experience just from that. So Mom, when she has a question about it, if she's not calling my Aunt Joanne, she's calling me about special education services. So that's what motivated me. My little niece was a little driving force behind that. And I said, I don't want another family to have to be my mama going to an IEP meeting and they're telling her basically that they're not going to give this baby the services she needs. So they didn't even want to test her. You know, she had already qualified for special education, but she had autism. She had autism, and they didn't even know that she had autism. She had already gone to the doctor. Mom told them what she had and what she was diagnosed with, and they had their own little system of services and eligibility and what you're going to qualify for. They're like, no, you're going to use what the doctor just gave her, and you're going to give her another screening test. You're going to do that universal screening. You're going to do it all over again, and we're going to qualify for those services. And my niece, y'all, she's graduating on May 28th. And so I am so proud of her. I mean, it wasn't easy, you know, just dealing with all of the crying. She didn't understand how to do stuff, and my mom would be sometimes upset because, you know, she look in Power School and she see that she have like zeros. And my mom was like, why didn't you do this? And so she didn't even start crying. And she said, Aunt Debbie, she said, I don't understand. I don't understand. And so when she told me that, I said, Mom, I said, put her on the video. So we would go on Zoom, and I would look and see what I could do actually to help her. But she struggled, especially being in that music class. And the music teacher was not in favor of helping her or following the IEP. I said, Mom, 2 words, sue them. Sue them. When my mom called them and told them about that, they withdrew her out of their music class, which was one of the major requirements for her to graduate, and they found something comparable to that. And so 2 words, y'all. 2 words, and they will get right. And so this is the basis of my project, and I'm going to sit down. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I forgot. I'm not done. All right, I'm going to do needs assessment surveys. I'm going to have that done by the end of May. I've created some surveys for my teachers about special ed, as well as my paraprofessional, about what are some resources that you can actually use to help my students in these intervention when they do their pullouts. And so still waiting on that. I did that via Google Forms, and so I'll have that completed by the end of May. And then they're voting on my Facebook page, the name of it, and I put inclusive learning access for all. And that's going to be a final vote on that one on May 23rd, next Monday. The next Monday, rather. And then gathering resources for teachers, parents, and family members. That's all still on my to-do list. So, questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
ADAP has a wonderful book that I had them to send so that I could give out at the resource fair.
Okay.
And I'm forgetting the name. Right's not a favor.
Right's not a favor.
You need to
lovely.
get a
I need
copy of that.
Okay.
For every one of your
parents,
teachers, and parents. I mean, I don't know how many he'll give you.
As many as you want, and they're looking.
Mr. James, can I get some of those books?
I've got some books too.
Yes, ma'am.
You can download it off the website.
Okay, on ADAP's website? Okay, will do. A Bible? Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you said you're going to do your teachers and ask them what resources they need, are you assuming that they know everything they're supposed to know to begin with?
Many of them have gone through professional developments. They did which was a while back, like the Lee versus Macon and all of that training, but many of them had to do a Schoology, special education. They had to do that professional development, but it wasn't carried out by the district. It was actually basically videos posted to them and telling them basically some of the resources that they're used. So my page is basically going to provide actual videos. It's going to have PDFs, all those types of resources, because the teachers are really struggling with what, and when you have teachers ask you, well, what am I supposed to do? Tell me what to do. And that's basically what they're saying. And so that's pretty much why I would do
That's
that.
what I'm saying. If they don't know, they don't even know what to ask for if they don't know what they're supposed to be doing.
Inside
really.
of the, in the survey, I actually have like multiple choice items of what they would actually need in terms of resources, whether they're going to need ClassWorks, which actually has like a universal screener in it. And it's a program that they actually sell you to do progress monitoring on students and to see where students are, what skills they lack, and all of that. And I asked them, would they be interested in a program like that, something like Lexia, anything that will read to them, have it, because when they take state assessments and things like that, the students are used to having some of those texts read aloud. And there's a lot of internet being burnt when they start doing the ACAP testing, especially with assistive technology and all of that. So they have like inside of I'll send you a copy of it, but they actually have like multiple choice items, things that they would actually be interested in, what they would like to see on my Facebook page. Yes, ma'am. I'll come back to you.
I was just going to say, I do a lot of parent training, free community services on how to learn how to attend an IEP meeting and what questions to ask, how to build an IEP folder, what records to retain, how to organize that folder, what accommodations to ask for, what services you should be asking for. I do a lot of those trainings in the community for free. So if you ever want to reach out and do one of those sessions, just let me know. I'm happy to
I want to do
collaborate
it. I'm
with
right
you.
Now. I take it.
I also, yeah, I collaborate with
do
a
you
lot
do
of.
it through Zoom or
So I
any-
usually partner with some nonprofits in town to deliver those programs. I can let you know, or we can just do one together. But I also I went through a lot of this with my daughter. And so I've learned how to point parents to resources. If your child has this diagnosis, I show them, like what Alex is doing right now, here's how to find a list of accommodations. Here's how to find these tools, because over time they may get more diagnoses and you need to understand how to find these resources yourself. Right. So here's how you can learn how to do this yourself. Here's how to become the advocate that you need to become for your child. So let me show you these steps. Let me show you how to build this folder. Let me show you how to start building these questions so that you have these tools on hand so that you can do this meeting, but also the next 12 years of meetings too. And so, one of the questions I always tell my parents to ask is, what other services does my child qualify for? And that always opens the door at the meeting. Or what other accommodations does she qualify for? Because then it puts it on the school to have to answer the question. And I always give them lists of questions like that starts that conversation. So I'm happy to help in any way
I need
and
your
partner.
help on that. I do.
And I also have like a gazillion resources
Yeah,
as well.
'cause-
I know you do too, but I also have like from the parent legal side.
Right.
I want those resources too. And we,
a whole session on it. I have so much stuff.
Yeah, we have we have once a month meetings like right now for parents to educate them on IEP meetings and what they actually need and who they can bring, et cetera, et
all
cetera.
right, last question, and then we're going to
Yeah.
watch Veronica's because we're out of time for the room and everything. So we've got to really, sorry,
But thank
Janice, we
y'all.
got to wrap it up. So.
I got one question. I was told that my child get on the special going to the special ed going to school. It was a time limit from the time the bus picked him up to the time he got to the school. So I'm trying to understand why y'all gotta go 15 miles. Is that because of your area?
It's because of where we're located. We're like rural, like really off in the weeds, like, and we're 15 miles from the school that actually houses the resource room. It's like we have like 4 high schools and 4 elementary schools, and that's because you have some schools that's like K through 12, and they still have the elementary aspect to it. Well, they just put all of those schools, if they have students that have to go to the resource room, they all have to be bused to Wedowee.
Okay, so y'all don't have the resource because of the.
Yeah, and that was one of the things she did mention to me, that we couldn't get a resource room because other people would want one. And that's why not.
Everybody should have.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be able to have this opportunity to present my project for Partners in Policymaking. I'd also like to apologize for not being able to be there in person with you all. Some of you may be aware that I have a second graduation today, and that is my graduation from Highlands College. With that being said, I just want to jump into my project because I'm very excited about it. And we have put together a team of people that are very serious and very committed to housing expansion. And that is what my project is about. And more specifically, housing that will be affordable and accessible and inclusive, something we desperately need in this country and even more so in Alabama. So we have an initiative, and our initiative is to bring dignified housing for people with disabilities. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what one of the barriers that many people with disabilities occur, and of course, that is affordability. So looking at it from an SSI standpoint, with SSI alone, people with disabilities would spend 131% of their income on basic housing. Even then, only 6% of the housing market is accessible to people with disabilities. And even more startling is 55% of the housing discrimination in this country is against people with disabilities. Only 12% of adults with disabilities who use supportive services rent or own their own home. And people with disabilities are more than 4 times more likely to experience homelessness than their non-disabled counterparts. While the affordable housing crisis in communities nationwide is well understood, people with disabilities are disproportionately impacted, and we are continually overlooked. I found this quote from a well-known advocacy organization called Alabama Arise, and it really spoke to me and represented something that is, very disturbing when we all think about where our loved ones and where our family members and where our people we're advocating for are going to live. And the quote is this: Alabama's shortage of affordable housing causes significant harm for tens of thousands of state residents. The state lacks nearly 80,000 affordable homes for people with extremely low incomes, defined as 30% below the median income. But really, the takeaway that I want you to know today is that 3 in 4 of these Alabamians are seniors people with disabilities, and/or people in the workforce. So to break it down even more, let's look at the actual costs in Alabama, specifically Birmingham. The average one-bedroom renter with disabilities in Jefferson County would be spending around 179% of their benefits on housing alone. Many choose to live in less adequate housing and still pay as much as 102% of their SSI. After exhausting their SSI for a one-bedroom apartment, a person with disabilities would still owe $463 in rent before utilities. And in Alabama, this percentage is in far excess of the median percent income spent on housing nationally, which is 32.5%. So I just wanted to share with you the startling difference between Alabama and the national median. So we need to find a solution. My project solution is a private and public collaboration. We just confirmed that thousands of people in Alabama are facing housing insecurity. Not only that, they're struggling to find public transportation or meaningful integration or inclusion. With our state failing to meet its obligations, private and public collaboration is needed to promote integrated or inclusive housing. So our approach to this solution are three-pronged. We are looking at it in three very distinct ways. First of all, accessible. We would want a community that supports diverse access and person-centered design. Our community would be affordable. Affordability for all incomes, from the lowest to market rent. And lastly, inclusive. Our community would be inclusive, where people with and without disabilities share an interdependent, connected community. So let's talk about how we're going to do this. We have an initiative, we have a solution. So what does that solution entail? So we have formed a partnership with Accessible Alabama and an amazing organization called the Kelsey. We partnered with Kelsey, which is a California-based company that has its own distinct leadership made up of people with and without disabilities. And actually, the leadership at the Kelsey employs 50% of their leadership are people with disabilities. So with this partnership of Accessible Alabama and the Kelsey, our project will be called the Kyle. So this slide will give you a little bit more of a visual of exactly what our project is about. Goal number 1, promote awareness among stakeholders. Goal number 2, solicit input from stakeholders about challenges. Goal number 3, secure actionable commitments from stakeholders. And lastly, have one inclusive housing project ready to move forward in site acquisition and development within the next 6 months. The project is called the Kyle, and it's a partnership project that develops new housing. Who are the actors in this partnership? Accessible Alabama, and let me tell you a little bit about Accessible Alabama. It is a future 501c3 with an associated domain responsible for resource dissemination and building networks between stakeholders and persons with disability. The other actor in our partnership is the Kelsey. And as I mentioned, they're an organization with experience pioneering disability-forward housing solutions. And I would love to share more about the Kelsey, and you can go to their amazing website and learn a lot more details about what they do. We are so excited that they are a partner, because I truly believe without somebody like the Kelsey that can help us look at what we're trying to do in a more structured way, we needed an entity like the Kelsey to partnership with Accessible Alabama. We needed that structured entity. Skills, use of resources. So let's start with Accessible Alabama. We have lots of skills in our organization, and we have lots of resources. The first skill and resource would what we would calling our advisory committee. It will be comprised of a community of stakeholders that are excited about inclusive, affordable, and accessible housing. And I can also tell you more about that advisory committee at another time. What else does Accessible Alabama bring to the table? We also also are going to be bringing startup capital for the initial project consultation. And that startup capital right now is looking at about $50,000. What else do we bring? Local area expertise and partnerships. And we will also be part of the initial capital acquisition. And that will be coming from donors or potential stakeholders. So those are some of the skills that Accessible Alabama will be bringing. Now the Kelsey, primarily, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about what the Kelsey's skills and resources are because there are so many of them. And I actually have a project timeline that would tell you more about that. But for today's purposes, I'm just going to let you know and share with you that the Kelsey will be providing this unbelievable resource and skill level of technical expertise and management oversight. They have 3 current major projects in California, which are models we're trying to replicate here in Alabama, and more specifically, the first phase would be for the Birmingham metro area. And then lastly, stakeholder engagement, they will be very, very much involved in the securing of capital for production from stakeholders, managing policy roadblocks, analyzing feasibility for the where and how large and all the other things that go with in the actual development of the bricks and mortar, and then the performance monitoring. So this next slide talks about the functions of Accessible Alabama. Accessible Alabama will basically have 2 large primary functions. The first one you see is grant proposals. With Accessible Alabama being a 501(c), that is very critical, as we all know, to applying for grants. So there's 2 types of grants we will be trying to secure. The first one is a project rental assistance grant, and what that means is federal HUD funding that promotes rental assistance to extremely low income persons with disabilities, and it will increase affordable housing opportunities and promote innovative solutions to state level challenges. So we call that a PRA grant. The next grant proposal that we will be trying to secure will be supported housing for persons with disabilities, or capital advance grants. This is federal HUD funding designed to bring states into compliance with Olmstead versus LC. It facilitates the creation of permanent, supportive, and integrated housing with a minimum allotment for extremely low income folks. And this is also for new construction, new development. And the second prong of our function is called building networks. Accessible Alabama will secure and manage relationships between the state level HUD, stakeholders, and the disabled community. And it will also try to maximize utility of working relationships, formal and informal, that guide the production of affordable housing. This next slide talks a little bit about what would be the Kelsey's function. This organization is specifically designed to bring private and public actors together under the leadership of folks with disabilities and folks without, to expand accessible, inclusive, and affordable housing. The Kelsey has been very successful in doing that in 3 different ways. I just wanted to touch on those real briefly. They are co-developers who've created mixed income inclusive housing with inclusion as part of their programs and resident mix, which is very exciting how they do that. They also have developed a set of guidelines that include 300 elements that from the early development of their communities to the operation of their communities, these housing design standards and accessibility elements support inclusion and access. And they're also organized by how they impact their areas and many other additional benefits. So they have 300 elements that meet housing design standards and accessibility and inclusion standards. And also lastly, I think one of the most important functions of the Kelsey is their very, very driven team of leaders who believe that you can't change housing policy or culture, 100 units at a time. You've got to do it on a massive scale, and to help bring what they they've done in San Francisco, we need to bring it and replicate it all over the country. So because of that, they are very focused on educating real estate developers, on educating and bringing awareness to policymakers, and more importantly, the funders like HUD, so that we can have, much better opportunities for inclusive housing. Their advocacy is well known all over the country. And just so you understand a little bit about the Kelsey, it is named the Kelsey because the co-founder, Michaela Connery, who I've been developing a relationship with over the last year and a half, and she and I have met on many occasions. We just formed this really neat friendship. And Michaela, who is the co-founder of the Kelsey, grew up with her cousin Kelsey, and her cousin Kelsey was born with real significant challenges, but was very similar to Kyle. Michaela shared that with me, and she just saw how unique and how social and how so many things Kelsey and Kyle were alike, even though they had never met each other. So because of that, Michaela was looking and helping Kelsey find a place to live. Kelsey's older than Kyle. And in her journey to try to find something that Kyle would like, she found that there wasn't anything available. So she couldn't find anything that was inclusive enough for Kelsey. So not to go into a long story about this whole reason I chose to partner with Kelsey and they chose to partner with Kyle and I, is that all of these visions are family driven, and most of the good things that happen in the disability world are family driven. And so the Kelsey, named after Michaela's cousin, the Kelsey, was living and talking and doing what we're all trying to do. And so they just chose to put all their efforts into this housing crisis and really trying to build disability forward housing. So that's just a little story about the Kelsey. Lastly, this is my last slide. I just wanted you to see that our proposal right now with the Kelsey is has a significant timeline. And what you're looking at here is the proposed project schedule. And it starts in June and ends in November. And this is a 6-month commitment that our proposal with the Kelsey is about. We can, obviously share more of that with everyone if they'd like to at another time. We are very excited about this project, and we are ready to roll up our sleeves and get to work. And I'm so thankful that I've had this opportunity today to share our project, the Kyle, with you.
In touch with you all the next few weeks to wrap everything up. And Lisa Dickey had to leave this morning. She didn't pre-record her presentation. I'm going to try and work on that so we can share that with everybody too, because, I'd like to hear that one as well.